Hello and welcome to Hank Games Without Hank. We are here in the Carling Cup semifinals, home and away to Fulham. We have to win this game, or at least win the next game by more than we lose this game by. So it's a two-game tournament essentially. So yeah, and then if we win, we get to go to the finals. I don't know what we get then. And then if we win the final, we win the Carling Cup, which is known as the Mickey Mouse Trophy in England. But I still want it. I'll tell you what, I love all hardware. I love it. We're playing against Fulham. They're pretty good. They have Clint Dempsey, of course, American. We're starting our best team today. We want this bad. We've got Escargot out on the right. Twice as Vice is our right winger. And the mother flippin' Fox in left back. I'm confident about this game because it's raining in England, and we never lose when it rains, except sometimes. So today I'm going to talk to you about the future of publishing. Stupid publishing, always having a future. People are always talking about the future of publishing in very anxious ways because, of course, all the other mainstream media models fell apart in the last 10 years. The recording business, music recording business died. That's not a foul. What I did was I just got really low and I tried to give him an ankle hug, but I wanted to do it with my feet and I had my cleats out. That's not a foul. Is it really a foul to just, oh boy, how did we not give up a goal there? Goodness gracious. So, publishing is, people have been kind of sounding the death knell for books for about 600 years. So I tend to not be as worried as most people are. However, there are interesting new models emerging, some of which, oh boy. Oh boy, I don't know how we didn't give up a goal there. We're not playing well. I need the boys to focus. Some of which are going to be really helpful and some of which I think are pretty stupid. So I want to talk about that today. But the first thing that I want to say is that the traditional model of publishing, in which a lot of the curating is done for us by publishers, is a very good model. And here's why it's a very good model. And I think in some ways publishers need to do more curating, not less. They need to employ more people in the business of finding the best stories for us, helping writers to develop those stories, and then getting those stories to readers. So you may have heard of this book, 50 Shades of Grey, which is an S&M trilogy that started out as Twilight fan fiction, and now it's the best-selling novel in the world. And it's about this woman who's in she's in a master-slave relationship with a very wealthy man. That's basically what it's about. And it started out as Twilight fan fiction, and then it was self-published in the Kindle store, and then it was picked up by a major publisher, and they turned it into a big phenomenon. This is increasingly happening, that books start out as self-published and then get picked up by major publishers. The problem with this model is that it doesn't give editors a chance to make those books not suck. I've talked a lot about the value that editors add to the publishing process over the years. It's very different. You know, the relationship between an author and a publisher is very different from the relationship between a record company and a musician. That was always a somewhat adversarial relationship in which there was always some awareness that money was basically being extracted from the creator of the content and given to the record company, and all the record company was doing in exchange to add value was distribution. And there's a lot of talk, particularly by Amazon, that this is the same thing is happening in publishing, and that the job of, that Amazon is changing the distribution model by making it so that authors can share with their readers directly on the Kindle, and that eliminates the need for publishers, or at least for publishers as we once imagined them. I disagree with that pretty strongly. And that story feeds on the lie that books are created by one person. And that's a very attractive lie, and I understand why it's, wow, how have we not given up a goal? I understand why it's so compelling to people, but it's just inaccurate. Books are not created by one people. They're created by lots of people working together. And did I say books are not created by one people? Like the Jamaicans? Yeah. Yeah, books are not created by one person. Right. So books are not created by one person; they're created by lots of people. And like chief in that role for me is my editor Julie Strauss-Gable. And my books, to say that my books would be different or lesser without her is to understate the matter dramatically. They wouldn't be publishable. They wouldn't be readable. They would honestly, I mean, people criticize the writing in 50 Shades of Grey, but one of the reasons the writing in 50 Shades of Grey is so awful, and it is epically bad, is that she wasn't able to work, at least to the best of my knowledge, she wasn't able to work with an editor, for years and years and years on a manuscript. Editors add value to the process of publishing, and there really is no analogous role in the world of recording. So I don't buy that argument at all. And the reason Amazon is making that argument is because it is profitable to them to make the argument, because they imagine a world in which all the books are 50 Shades of Grey, and none of the books are books like The Fault in Our Stars that are created, over a very long period of time, in very close consultation with an editor with whom you have a long-term relationship. Amazon has no interest in that business model because they see it as inefficient. Well, I would argue that books are, that art in general is not in the efficiency business. Now there are some interesting exceptions to this rule. There are some really good self-published books. I think of the book Wool, for instance, by Hugh Howey, I think his name is, which is a really good book, and an interesting dystopian novel, well written, well edited. Nothing distractingly bad in it. But I will say that those books tend not to be quote-unquote literary fiction. They tend to be quote-unquote genre fiction. And I think the reason for that is that genre fiction has a way of getting to its audience, right? So like if you write dystopian thrillers, you have a way of getting to your audience, because there are fans of dystopian thrillers out there who are looking for the next cool dystopian thriller to read. So the reason, and you can reach out to them directly. You can't reach out to people nearly as directly unless you happen to be a semi-professional video game player who has a very large audience on YouTube. I just hit the post by accident. You can't reach out to your readers directly if you don't write the kind of fiction that has built-in readers who are like, I like things like X, and so that's how you get to them. So the guy who wrote Wool was able to get readers by saying, this is a little bit like other dystopian novels you might have liked. Well, you can't really say, oh, if you liked, I don't know, Hamlet, you'll also enjoy The Pale King. So if you're David Foster Wallace, you have a much harder time reaching out directly to an audience, because it's just not necessarily what you're, wow, that was a third-degree burner. Not necessarily what you're good at, and as an author, it's not really what you should have to be good at. You should have other people who are doing the business of making the case for your book. So that is another thing that bothers me about that's got to be a foul. Dang it. That bothers me about Amazon's model, is that it expects the author to be both the marketing director and the editor and the author of his or her work. Well, that's not the way that writing works, and it's not the way writing should work. We shouldn't reward the writing that features the author with the most marketable personality or the best marketing mind. That's not, I mean, to some extent I understand that's how publishing already works, but it's not how publishing should work. And there are still lots of books by guys, for instance, like Jeffrey Eugenides, that sell extraordinarily well, despite having an author that isn't famous and has no desire to be. So when I look at the future of publishing, and I'm told that all of those models are going away and that they're going to be replaced by this Amazon model, well, I'll be fine in the Amazon model, because I like you guys and I know you guys, and I can let you know via Twitter when I have a new book out. Jeffrey Eugenides is not in that camp. I'm not worried about me, but I'm very worried about the next Jeffrey Eugenides. Whatever the Jeffrey Eugenides, whoever he or she, more likely she is, who is, right now 17 years old, how is that person going to be able to make her books as good as they can be and to share them with the broadest possible audience if she doesn't have a good editor and she doesn't have a group of people around her who want to work hard to get the book to the best possible readership? Those are the people I'm worried about. And I think that there's real cause for alarm there, because Amazon is very successfully rewriting the book on how to make a book. And the truth is, for every book like Wool, there are 1,000 books in the Kindle store that are bad, and there are probably 100 books in the Kindle store that are good that I'll never know about because I have no way of finding out about them. And that problem of discovery is to me still the central problem in publishing, in music, in all forms of art in this brave new economy. The problem is even on YouTube. How are you going to find a YouTube channel that you'll like when there are so many freaking YouTube channels? How are you going to discover the next thing you're going to love when there are so many things out there that you might love, but you don't want to make the time investment to find out if you're going to love them, because there are a lot of things that you know for a fact you won't love? Well, the truth is, publishers have solved this problem fairly effectively over the last 500 years. They've done a pretty good job of getting us an extremely wide variety of books that a lot of us will like. This is not like we're talking about Hollywood. You know, Hollywood publishes and I'm going to have to continue this video into the next video. Oh, no! We can't give up a goal now. Thank you, Ricardo Bunsen-Burney. He's had a great game. Presumably he had a fantastic date with Susan yesterday because he's been very focused. So the question is, how are we going to continue getting stuff to people who want it if they don't know where it is and don't know that they want it? And that's what I will discuss in the next video. Looks like it's going to be another 0-0 draw. It's the Swoodly Poopers' favorite score, 0-0. But that means that we get to go to the second game, and all we need to do is win to go to the finals of the Carling Cup. Thanks for watching. Best wishes.